Just need your notes today. That's all I need. We won't get homework today. Sound like every other day now. Alright, attendance. Yep, she's gone. Alright. Okay. Okay, homework today, we had homework due, that was page 4, page 6, page 7. If you have not turned that in, make sure that gets turned in. Okay, so that was the one I had yesterday. I think most people got it done yesterday, so okay, that was due today. Alright, what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to go into section 3 and 4. We hinted at them yesterday to kind of give you a brief introduction like before lunch, what we were doing on that. But we're on section 1.3 to 1.4, and it is the basic operations. Today we're going to go a little more in depth on basic operations. Okay, this is the part where we have to be able to do them by hand, not with a calculator. So that's the part where it takes practice. That's why we're going to do a couple of examples today. We're going to do a couple examples before lunch, we'll do a couple examples after lunch. That's kind of how it works, and then we'll be done. I'm sure we'll be done early today because I only have a couple things I want to make sure that we cover. Okay, so you won't have notes the whole entire time. Okay, so here we go. So the section we're in, we're going to be talking about the basic operations. What do I mean by that? We're going to be talking about addition today and subtraction. Now, obviously, we're dealing with whole numbers still. So that's kind of our main two bolts. So those are the ones we hinted at yesterday. Now, obviously, we went through vocab words on addition yesterday. We did. We made a whole list of numbers that we added together. We're going to do that again today. I'll kind of call you back and see if you guys have those written down in your notes somewhere. And then we're going to make the list for subtraction today. So that's going to be the second list. And we did not do that one yesterday. So this will be the new one we'll have to do. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. And then we'll do a couple examples where we add a few numbers together. We'll try one by hand. We'll see if we can all get it right. And then we'll move on to subtraction after that. But the goal here today is to do a few examples. Can we get good at this? Can we do it by the correct method? So I'm going to try to do a couple examples. Okay, everyone understand what we're doing? Not bad. Okay. I believe this section 3 or 4, is the midway point for the chapter. Like exactly halfway. So that means maybe in a week, so a week from maybe today, we could potentially have another quiz, test kind of a thing. So if it falls, because I know we have Monday off, it's Labor Day, so potentially we have a test next week. If we do, we always take a couple days to review. We always take 1 day to review for sure to go over the practice test, and then we take the test next day. If we need 2 days, if it's like a big test, then we take 2. But that's how it works. But I think we have to get through section 7. I think that's the big one. That's order operation stuff. So, okay, let's jump right in. Let's talk about addition. Let's do that one first. Okay, it's a basic operation for addition. Now, obviously, the symbol for addition is the plus sign. Most people know that. But vocab terms. What do you remember from yesterday? What are the words we used?
Plus.
Plus, total, add, combine, okay. Sum of, yeah, that's a big one. That's the one that I believe the book will use the most. Find the sum of two numbers. Increase by. Altogether. I believe we had one more. More than. Now, the only modification probably make to one of these would be, this one, instead of saying add, we could say added to, be the only difference. Okay, so these are the words that we'd use. Technically, you'd see like if we had story problems, these would be the words that the book would choose to use. Sum of is the big one. Find the sum of two numbers. I believe that's the word that they'll use for your instructions. Find the sum of the following numbers. And they'll give you a list and you have to add them together. Okay? Alright, so not bad. Now, adding. There's a certain method we use. What do you remember from yesterday? There's our method for adding. There's two different methods. We talked about one of them yesterday.
Like if you have a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
Kind of add them like.
Yeah, you're on it. You're on it. Starts
Don't
with
add
C.
them all together.
Okay. Add two of them at a time, but how do you do it? Starts with
Column?
C. Yeah, column method. That's what I'm talking about. You're right on it too. You're just explaining it. Column method. Alright. This is one of the strategies we use. Like Cole's saying, you stack two numbers on top of each other, you add straight down. Now when you do that, you have to line up decimal point. That's a big deal. So when you do column method, decimal point is a big one. Okay, and when we line them up, you stack two numbers at a time. Two numbers. Don't try to add four numbers together. It's too much. Too much. You'll lose track of things. Add two numbers, and then when you're done with those two, then add it to the next number if there's more than one. Okay, and you stack the next two. Okay, that's how it works. It's pretty basic. We're going to talk about this method first. We're going to do one example. Then I'm going to show you the second method, the one that we did not talk about yesterday. Okay, so that's why we have two different methods here. Okay, let's do one of those first. Okay, let's go 1034 plus 58 plus 279. Okay, obviously when you look at that, just random numbers, right? Okay, we're going to try to add these together. Now I know most of you can just pound numbers and actually solve it, crunching numbers. You can do that all day. But here's the thing. Let's estimate what our answer is first. Let's guesstimate, right? To me, this is about 1,000, right? About 1,000. This is about 50-ish. So now we're at 1,050, maybe. And this is about 300. So maybe we're at 1,350 if you add all three numbers together. Now obviously I've underestimated a lot of these, but we should be in that range. 1,000s, 300s, 400s, somewhere in that range. Okay, that's what you should be expecting. Okay, if you find a number like your answer, if you add these together, you find that it was 10,000, you did something wrong. Okay, so you carry numbers too far. So I always like to do that first. Common sense, bless you, common sense, like, what is your answer roughly going to be? 1,400 maybe, 1,300, somewhere in that range. Okay, so let's add. Like, Cole, like you were saying, let's stack the first two. Sounds good to me. Let's go with the 58 and the 1,034. Now when you add, it doesn't matter the order you add. It doesn't. I could have added the front number and the back number together, the 1,034 and the 279 number. I could have added those two, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna go in order so I don't lose track. Okay, so when I add these two together, you start in the back because you lined up the decimal. The decimal's always in the back. That was what we talked about yesterday. That's that first point, right? And now you just go straight down, and we go the right side to the left side. Okay, what's 8 plus 4? 12. So now it's a two-digit number, right? Because you got 12, so you have to carry the 1 to the next column over. That's how it works. That's how you write 12. Then you're going to add down. That's what? 4 plus 5, that's a 9. 0 plus 0 is 0, 1 plus 0 is 1. So this is what we're at so far. We're at 1,092. Is there any questions with that so far? Now that was just the first one, I'm not done yet. That was just the first two numbers added together. Okay, now what do I need to do?
Put your 279 under it.
Exactly, yeah. So you can do that, just keep carrying the 279. I'm just gonna go off to the side and just take this number we just found, because that was the first new number, and just add it to the 279. So 1,092, 279. Add those together, and this should be my final answer now. Now, if you like to do that thing where you just put the 279 down below and keep going, that's great, you can do that, like what I was saying. But I like to put it off to the side and keep going. So, decimal points are lined up, this is good. I'm gonna fill in any ghost numbers, so that's a 0. I like to fill in the gaps. Alright, so now they're the same size, so let's add straight down. 2 and 9, 11, carry the 1. That's 16 plus 1, what is that, 17, carry the 1. 1 plus 0 is 1, plus a 2 is a 3, and 1 plus 0 is a 1. Alright, so there you go. There's your answer. And what did we say roughly? It's gonna be 1,350, 1,400. So we're in the ballpark. Looks good to me. Move on to the next one. So it's right in between there. So sometimes it's always good to have that like guesstimate in your head before we start. You know what it's roughly gonna be. And you didn't have to be accurate. I wasn't. I mean, I just kind of guesstimate what we're gonna get to. Okay. Any questions with the column method? It's the preferred method. It's the one I use. I do it all the time on the paper. You see me do it on the board half the time when I'm doing problems because I don't like to use a calculator. Alright, second method now of adding. Second method. This one we did not talk about yesterday. Grouping method. This is a grouping method. This is a strategy you can use that will make adding quicker. It may not make it better, but it will make it faster so that you can get down to your final answer further, or just as easy as before. So what I mean by that is when you group, you try to group into what I'm going to call like terms. What I mean by that is it can be any way that you like to think of it. Like for me, when I add numbers together, I like to make whole numbers like tens, like whole nice numbers. Or I like to try to add numbers that make 100 perfectly. You know, that type of thing. So when you're looking at a big group of numbers like this, right? Now obviously there are a bunch of tens here. Don't just go left to right. You know, adding 10 and 70, and then adding the 30, and then adding the 90. Don't do that. This is the point where I said before, you haven't added any order you like. So now you can choose to group certain numbers together. Like for instance, when you look up there, what two numbers would you like to add together?
90 and 10.
Yeah, why?
100 and 30.
Exactly. That's faster. You're already 10 times faster adding that than somebody going left to right. Because knowing just to group these two numbers together, you made a perfect 100. And in fact, when you group these two together, what do you make? Perfect 100 again. It's faster. Your final answer is 200. You can do it in your head, as opposed to writing it all down. Now, I don't choose to write it in my head, but that's what I would do. I would group these two together. I would group the 10 and the 90 together, because that makes 100. This makes a perfect 100. And now when I add them together, I get 200. Look at that. Way easier. I didn't even have to write in column, because I can see what the number was going to be. That's a different strategy. This one doesn't come up very often. It doesn't. I don't use it very often, because how many times have you ever seen numbers that perfect? Never, but it is a strategy you can use in like an ACT, a MAPS testing, because it does make numbers easier. Especially like, I know when they're like weird goofy numbers, you know, 22 and 38 and 40, and we have the number 8 here, you know, like that type of thing. There's certain numbers I would choose to add together first. Now, personally, like my personal preference, because it doesn't matter the order you add, I would add the 22 and the 8 together. Why?
So it'd be 30.
Makes 30. Now the problem's easier. I know you could add the first two numbers together. You get 60 really fast. But why? when I could add the other number and make it faster. So it's a strategy, like, do you see these two numbers are easy, or do you see the back two? I see the back two easier, 22 plus 8. Then add the 40 to it, then add the 38. Like, that to me makes sense, because this makes 30, and now this problem just became way easier, because now this makes 70. That's what, 108. That's what I mean by grouping. You group numbers together, you choose to, because they're easier to add in your head. That's an actual strategy. Okay, now today, I know, or the examples were eventually, not today, but eventually, your numbers won't be that pretty. I know that. You're gonna have to resort to doing this type of thing. But when you have the opportunity, don't forget, like, that's a great strategy, moving things around. Because it doesn't matter where you at. You'll always be the same answer in the end. Okay, any questions with any of the problems I've done so far? Okay, yeah, you guys seem like you're pretty good at this. All right, we'll come back to these later. We'll do an example after lunch and stuff. But let's talk about subtraction. I want to go through the vocab words, maybe do an example and a method for subtracting. Okay? All right. All right, let's do subtraction here. Obviously, the symbol for subtraction, we just use the minus sign. Okay, now vocabulary terms that we use for subtraction. Words that you'll see a lot throughout your textbook, and words that you've probably learned over years of the math that you've been in. The one that everyone tries to use, minus. Oh, minus. Yeah, it's grammatically it's not correct, but it is subtraction. Subtracted by. 10 subtracted by 4 or something like that. Decreased by. That means subtracted by, right? Decreased by. Another word. Compared to. Compared to. You're going to compare two numbers. Compare ages. You're subtracting. Seeing the difference there. Other words. This is going to seem a little goofy. Subtracted from. Instead of subtracted by, but subtracted from. That's a completely different than the top one. Okay?
Less than?
Less than, that's the next one. Less than actually means the same thing as the one I just wrote down. Means the same as that one. They all mean the same thing, but these two are special. In fact, I'd like you to put stars next to these. These bottom two. They're special. They mean something, and we're going to talk about those eventually. That actually might be the thing you do after lunch the most. Take away. That's one that I know some people have used in previous. Take away. Any other words you can think of that you've definitely seen in your math over the years? Because I mean, you guys are what, 9 years into high school, sometimes. Can you think of any others?
I'm trying to, but I can't. Nothing's coming to mind right now.
These are the ones that I know that I use a lot. Okay, but the two with the stars, they're definitely important. Okay, let's do one column method. One problem where we just do a simple, we stack them, we subtract them kind of a thing. In fact, let's just change this from. This is gonna be good. Subtract and subtract. Okay, how do you think we're going to attempt this problem, the one I just wrote down? What do you think? What method?
Column.
Column method again. It's the exact same thing as addition. In fact, something we're going to talk about after lunch is that addition and subtraction are literally the same operation. They are the same thing. They are just written differently. Okay, and I'll explain that. There's a subtlety, there's a difference in definition. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do column method. It still has the same bullets. We still have to line up decimal points. We still want to only write two numbers stacked on top of each other. The big deal is with subtraction, the only difference in method is that the top number has to be larger than the bottom. Top digit needs to be larger than the bottom digit. Needs to be bigger than the bottom digit. Now what I mean by that is not size. Don't play that card. Oh, I gotta write the number bigger now. Value, it's worth more. The value of it's larger. Okay? Alright, let's guesstimate before we start. Maybe this will be our strategy before lunch. Okay. This is roughly what, 1,000? Okay, roughly 1,000? Or maybe 1,050? Let's say it is 1,050. We're gonna take away about 50, so now we're back to what, 1,000 again? And then we're gonna subtract about 300. So 1,000 minus 300-ish, what's that, 700s range, somewhere? That's what I'm expecting. Now obviously I'm way overestimating, or underestimating maybe, but I'm thinking we're gonna be in the 700s, in that range, maybe 700, 800 kind of a thing. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, because just guesstimating, just taking $1,000 and subtracting, that other two terms. Yeah, about 300. Okay, all right, let's go through this. Let's try this out. 1,034. We're going to subtract 58. We're going to subtract 58. Now, what do we have to make sure of again?
You can't minus, like if you can't subtract 8 from 4.
Yeah, 4 is too small, right? So you need to borrow from the number in front of it. So we're going to borrow from the 3, making that a what? A 2, and I'm going to put a 1 in front of the 4, making it a 14. So 14 minus 8, 6. That's something you just need to know. Okay, now for the next one, 2 minus 5. I can't do that. So I'm going to borrow from the number in front of it. Literally, the number in front is literally a 10. I'm going to cross this out and make that a 9. Put a 12 here, because I put a 1 in front, and then subtract. Okay, 12 minus 5 is a 7. 9 minus 0 is a 9. Okay, let's go to lunch. We'll come back. We'll finish this up, and I'll explain more once we go through that.
Yeah, like first through 5 periods are like normal periods, and then they
I had the Carolina
6, 7, 8, 9.
They
What
suck.
do we even do?
I want to
Job.
Give it.
I don't know.
Give it.
I don't know if it's inside or outside. You practicing
I
it?
miss.
Guessing like the looks of the gym and probably gonna do it.
Alright. Okay, let's start right in. I want to pick up where we left off here. In fact, I'm just going to start from the beginning here, just so we can look at what I was doing, what I left off at, so we're not kind of lost in the middle of translation if you weren't really paying attention, focusing on one. So the idea is that what we're doing is we're taking 1,034 and we're going to subtract 58 from it. Now the idea here is that you still have to line up the decimal point, so that's still what we're doing. And then, like Cole, you said right before lunch, you can't subtract the 4 and the 8. The reason being why you can't subtract that is the 4 is too small. So you can't subtract 4 minus 8. So what we had to do is before lunch, we borrowed from the 3, making that a 2, and making the 4 a 14. Because anytime you borrow from the number in front, you cross out making it 1 less, that's why I made the 3 a 2, and then you put a 1 in front of the number behind it, okay? Alright, so 14 minus 8, that is a 6. And now, for the next one, this is what we were doing right before lunch. The idea is that I need to borrow from the 10 because I can't subtract the 2 and the 5. So I'm going to borrow from that. So I'm going to borrow from the 10, making this a 9. This is a 12 now. That's just how it works. Notice I didn't borrow from like the 0 and the 1. It's a 10 out front. There's no numbers below it, so that's fine. I'm just going to borrow from the 10, making it a 9. The 12 is now on top. I subtract the 5 and make 7. And then 9 minus the 0 here is just a 9. Okay, any questions with what we did right before lunch? Okay, now we're not done yet. All I've done so far is subtract the first two numbers. We gotta subtract the third number now, so we gotta make sure we can cover that. So, and if like you said earlier, like if you like to put the 279 below that, that's fine, you can do that. I like to always put it off to the side and restart, so it's more clean. I have some room above it and below it to work. So 976. We're going to subtract the 279. And that should be my final answer, because I subtracted the first two to get the 976, so it should be the last step that I have to do. And same exact idea, I need to make sure that I borrow, because the 6 right now I cannot subtract from the, I can't subtract the 6 and the 9 from it. So I'm going to borrow from the 7, making it a 6. This is now a 16. So I put a 1 in front of it. 16 minus 9 is a 7. That's just going straight down. Now, the second column now, it's a 6. I can't subtract 7 from it. So I'm going to borrow from the 9, making it an 8. And making this a 16. 16 minus 7 is 9. Then 8 minus 2 is a 6. And there's your answer. And what did we roughly say my answer was going to be before we started? 700, 800? That's 697. That's about as close as you're getting. Alright. Any questions on subtraction, like borrowing? Because if you notice, borrowing is the part that always gets people. Now, you can still do grouping method. You can still move things around and group things together and subtract, as long as it's all subtraction, you can kind of rearrange and we'll still get the same answer. It's just, you gotta be careful on that. I prefer not to do grouping method with subtraction, just because it's just easier going left or right sometimes, because you're gonna have to make sure that the top number is bigger than the bottom number, that type of thing. Alright, any questions with any of the style of problems I've done so far, with column method and whatnot? Okay, here's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna put 2 problems on the board, that's it, just 2 problems. I'm gonna have you try them out in your paper. If we get the correct answer, we're done for the day. If not, we'll do one more. Okay? 2 problems. We're gonna do an addition, we're gonna do a subtraction problem, that's it. I'm just gonna give you a 1-digit number. That's not 1-digit number, but just one problem for each. So, and I'll just put 2 numbers there. I'm not gonna make a whole string of them. All right, so here we go. Let's do an addition problem. All right, I'm gonna go around the room. I want one number from each of you. 8. Keep going here, Cole.
9.
9. Keep going.
7.
7. Keep going. 5. Jason.
3.
3. Okay. And we're gonna add. I want to make up a. Let's go with 2. Schmidt, please.
7.
7. Other number.
8.
8. And we're gonna finish in the front row here.
3.
3. Okay, we're done there. Okay, that's the number I want to add first. Okay, so let's add those 2. Now, once you're done with that, we're gonna check. We'll see if we need to do one more. Okay. Then after that, we'll do one subtraction problem. Okay, so it's guaranteed we have one addition, one subtraction, but if we need an extra one, I'm gonna throw it in here right now.
Do you have to do a certain method?
Nope. Any method you like. Obviously on this one, we're gonna probably have 2 column methods, so we only have 2. There's no grouping. Okay. Take time. Try not to use a calculator. Let's try to avoid that for right now. Some people tend to want to do that. But I'll give you a little bit of time here. Yeah, I can solve them pretty quick. I usually just do them on downtime. definitely first three numbers definitely correct. Past that, I think some people forgot to carry a number. There was a couple that were wrong, and then comma. Comma was a big thing. I checked. Somebody had a comma in the wrong spot because you had to go to the back. All right. So here's the idea. So not bad. We did pretty good on that. So it was just pretty easy. It was just the front ones. I think we forgot to carry a number over. 2, 7, 8, 3. Okay. When you're adding, remember this is how you have to line it up. You have to line up the back number. Most people got that right. Going straight down 6 because that's 3 plus 3. This makes 13, which I believe everyone got right. So we carry the 1. Now the next number, this number was 15, and I think somebody forgot to carry a 1 there. So carrying the 1 here, this is 15 because it's 14 plus 1, which is 15, and then carrying the 1 over. And now this number is a 10 plus 2 more, because that's how 1 plus 9 plus 2, that's 12. Carry a 1, and this makes 9. This is where the comma needs to be. I saw somebody put the comma in the wrong spot. Okay, any questions with that? Okay, I just saw, I think it was the 1 carrying over, saw that was off, and then the comma. Okay, so not bad, that's an easy fix. I'm just going too quick. Alright, let's do a subtraction problem, and then we're done for the day. Okay? Any easier than that. So same exact problem, instead of adding, now you're subtracting them. So our last example of the day.
It's one spread for everything. It's only about 16.
Alright, so let's walk around, let's check. Alright, so here's a quick question to you. Did you have to borrow at any point?
Yes.
Yeah, at what point did you have to start borrowing?
The
No,
5.
Yeah, the second column, right?
Yeah.
Going like right to left. So make sure if you did not borrow, you did something wrong. So double check that right now. Did you borrow? If you didn't, make a fix. Nice. Alright, everyone got it? That's great. So again, I'm just gonna put it up here to confirm. Okay. 8, 9, 7, 5, 3 minus 2,783. Threes are good. That's 0. Everyone got that? You had to borrow from this, making it a 6, and this is a 15. 15 minus 8 is 7. 6 minus 7, you can't do that, so you have to borrow. This is an 8 now. That's a 16. 16 minus 7 is 9. 8 minus 2 is 6, and the 8 goes out front because it was 8 minus 0. So that was the number. Everyone got it right? That's great. Alright. here's the thing, I did hint at addition and subtraction are the same thing. They are the same thing, not the answers obviously. I'm talking about the actual operation, addition and subtraction. They come from the same origin, okay? How they actually just made subtraction is that it was when you add negative numbers. That's what it is. It's literally the definition of subtraction means that this is the same problem. 89,753, and you're gonna add a negative 2,783. This is the thing that I want you to realize. Adding a negative number is the same thing as just what you did with subtracting. Okay, that's the big deal. Some people don't realize that. There's that actual connection there. Alright, you're done for the day. Very nice, very easy. If you have any other homework that you want to work on, you maybe didn't get your page 4, page 6, page 7 done, you can turn that in. And we're done for the day.
How much time did we have left?
5 minutes. Alrighty. Good deal. Tomorrow, make sure you have your textbooks tomorrow. We will have homework tomorrow. We'll be on addition and subtraction, so kind of bounce it around. We're gonna be at different pages when we do the homework, so just be kind of, I think you guys are pretty used to that. I put up a couple different pages, pull just a couple problems. We won't have very many, but we'll do that before lunch tomorrow. We'll have a couple problems, so probably what I'll do is I'll review 1 or 2 problems right away, and then I'll give you your homework so you can work on it before lunch tomorrow. And then after lunch, we'll intro what we're doing